Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to watch the video and spend some time with me. Always very grateful for that. And guys, today I'm going to show you and talk about and give you guys some tips and advice on fishing what I consider the #1 April bass fishing lure that nobody fishes. We've talked about this bait a little bit on the channel before, but it's real seasonally specific as far as how you fish it and where you fish it. So today I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice for catching bass over the next month or so with it. Also guys, before we get started, just a quick reminder, anyone out there interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message. I'll get y'all set up for that. So much appreciated. Okay guys, here it is. I'm gonna show you right off the bat, then we're gonna get into it, why it's so great and why nobody uses it. This is the Megabass Sleeper Craw, plastic crawdad imitator. It's a super special bait. I'm gonna sort of show you guys all about it here. But as far as in the month of April, I've caught, the last 2 years, I've caught more bass on this particular crawdad here in April than any other month of the year. I mean, I've used it all year long, but as far as getting bites on the thing, you can't beat it this time of year during the late pre-spawn, the spawn, and the early post-spawn. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what to look for and how to fish it in that. Now, if you're not familiar with the Sleeper Craw, guys, I'll link it in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of the video. If you guys want to order some through that link, that's a good way to help the channel out. You can get them there. But the unique thing about this, what makes it so good in April, is the claws float up on this thing. So when the bait is on the bottom like this, the claws actually rise off the bottom like that. They almost like they're like this. They're like fighting the bass. You know, when it's just sitting on the bottom, it doesn't just set flat on the bottom like that. The pinchers float up. I think that's one of the biggest advantages of this bait over any other crawdad lure out there is the buoyancy of the pinchers. They're super elastic too. You can stretch them out forever. A couple other features, excuse me. This hook's got a really good, sharp, stiff, about a 2/0 hook that's buried in on the back here, so it's completely weedless. This is another factor that I really like about this is because you can't see a hook anywhere. The hook's completely hidden. And on a sight bait like this is a big deal because a bass will get down and study a crawdad if you've ever seen them, because they're very wary of it. Bass are wary hitting a good sized crawdad because of the pinchers. So they study them real close before they bite them a lot of times. So not having that hook visible is a big deal. And then the really unique part about this, it's got a internal keel weight right here. This is what weights the bait down. So this is what makes it, you know, good pitching and flipping bait, or just, you know, good falling bait. It just sort of falls down like that. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about how to fish it. One other thing real quick, I'll give you a little tip here on this thing that I found out is I saw a study about 2 years ago. They were talking about the type of crawdads bass prefer, and they said in the study that crawdads that only had one pincher on the thing, the bass preferred them a lot more than with 2 pinchers. So I have found that in clear water situation, I'll just cut one of the pinchers off in clear water. Not so much in the dirtier water, but clear water, I'll fish it just with one pincher. Works really good like that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about where you want to fish this thing and how you want to fish it. Most of the time, I'm fishing it depending upon the type of cover, water clarity, and water level will dictate the technique that I'm fishing. So let's talk about the 3 stages of the spawn. In the late pre-spawn, which sort of we're in right now in a lot of part of the country, this is a really good bait to fish around channel banks and bluff banks, all those places where the fish are staging, getting ready to spawn. So I'll take the Sleeper Craw, I'll usually put it maybe like on 12 or 15 pound test Seaguar and Vizex line with that Megabass, the perfect pitch rod, or some type of medium heavy bait cast rod. And I'll simply take this thing and pitch it and flip it to the rocks and work it down anywhere between, you know, 3 to 20 foot of water, depending on how clear the water is. If the water is really clear, like over 4 or 5 foot visibility, I may work it down into that 15 or 20, 25 foot range. If you got some stain in the water where that water visibility is like 1.5 to 2.5 foot, I'm looking for those fish to be in 2 to 3 foot of water. So that's all relative to that. That's a really good way to catch them in the pre-spawn before the water temperature hits about 60. Once the water temperature gets around 60, you want to move back into those spawning coves. And you're not targeting the spawning bass per se with it, although they will bite the thing anytime you have a crawdad around a bed. But you guys know I don't really condone visible bed fishing. But basically get into those spawning coves and just fan cast this thing around in those spawning coves. You don't have to have any cover. It can be just a gravelly clay area. You can, if there's some docks or lay down trees or grass, that's great too. But basically just go in there, flip and pitch around any shoreline objects with it. And if there's no shoreline object, just cast it like at a 45-degree angle down those spawning banks and work it again anywhere between 3 to 15, 20 foot of water, depending upon the water clarity. That's a really good way to catch them when that water temperature is sort of in the between, say, 60 into the mid to upper 60s. Now, after the fish get done spawning, and it's a post-spawn situation, one way you can catch a bunch of fish on the sleeper craw is to swim it like a swim jig. This thing, even though it doesn't have like a wagon curly tail, you can take this thing and throw it out there, keep your rod tip high, and just shake the rod tip like that when you're reeling it in. And that thing, it just sort of undulates across the surface like this, and they will come up and hammer it in the early pre-spawn when you work it in sight, just like a swim jig. So just throw it up there like you would your normal swim jig, keep the rod tip high, give it some jerking motion, keep it in sight, and they love it like that. Now, probably the two ways that I have caught the most bass in April on this thing, personally myself, is number one, flipping it and pitching it in any type of lay down trees. If you can find a lay down tree when that water temperature is anywhere between 57 to 70 degrees, there's almost always a bass in it this time of year in April. This thing's a really, really good flipping bait. It doesn't get hung up as much. And also, if you have flooded bushes, flooded willow trees and bushes, this thing is freaking like dynamite in there. It's like they don't see it. It's like they're constantly seeing creature baits and jigs. They never see like a realistic crawdad like this that can penetrate that flooded cover. So it's been a really good way to catch them. But they come in a lot of different colors, guys. Like I said, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description, and you can sort of scroll through the colors there. I'm just any type of green pumpkin or watermelon is my favorite. I caught a lot of fish on it. One thing about this particular plastic, this elastic plastic Megabass makes, is it doesn't hold dye very well. So you can't really dye these things to speak of unless you want to use maybe that dye paint. But like the dip and glow doesn't work that good on it. But killer, guys, Megabass Sleeper Craw, it will get you some bites in the month of April. It'll catch you some good ones. And no, there's not many people that fish it. As good as this bait is, this is a freaking awesome bait, guys. And it has not caught on like it deserves to be caught on. It really hasn't. The 110 was sort of the same way. It's like when the Vision 110 came out, it didn't catch on for 2 or 3 years or so. And it's sort of the same way with the Sleeper Craw. When this thing catches on, guys, you're gonna see a lot of people using it out there that fish just traditional bass fishing means. So anyway, get you a few of them. Hope it helps out. We'll talk later.